Alrighty, folks, we're now 6-0 in our last 6 Gold Club tier package plays on my premium page. 13-1 in our last 14 in that same package. We had the Grizzlies money line yesterday, and they held off the Magic for 45 seconds to go in the game to hang on to that victory. They were actually down double-digit points at one point late in the game. Had a great comeback. They actually missed a bunch of foul shots late to put it away, and got a big stop as time expired on Paolo Banchero to get the W. It was certainly a sweat, not the way we want to win games. We like to blow them out, but hey, a win's a win, and that's going to improve our record to 6-0 in our last 6. Once again, 6-0 in our last 6 Gold Club plays, 13-1 in our last 14 in that package. And the good news is, folks, Saturday's Gold Club play, it's already posted. It's out. It is available for access on my premium page. Of course, you got to sign up for that. That is not a freebie. But the good side is, if you do sign up for my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership, you're going to get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. Once again, it is a full access, all-inclusive membership, and I'm very thankful because we have been red hot in that package. Now, before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. Happy Saturday to you. Hopefully you had a great start to the weekend. Of course, if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. And I'll tell you, we've got a gazillion games on the slate here today. I've tried to handicap as many of them as humanly possible. The quick pick recap damn near has the entire slate of college basketball on it. I think we're only missing like 2 or 3 games because there weren't any lines posted for it. But as far as the breakdowns, we got 40 total games. I believe it's 35 in college basketball, 5 in the NBA, where you're getting in-depth breakdown and analysis. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to start off in college basketball, obviously. College of Charleston taking on Drexel. That's going to be a 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off, not on our big screen, but definitely a game of interest, early game. Drexel is in -1, totals 140. Now, Drexel's 14-4 at home. I'm sorry, Drexel's 14-4 overall, just 5-6 at home. Charleston 21-7 on the year, 7-4 straight up on the road. I'm looking around, it looks darker in here than usual. I don't know why, but anyway, once again, Charleston 21-7 on the year, 7-4 straight up on the road. The Cougs got the W in 7 out of their last 10, and they're averaging 77 points a game on offense. Now, Charleston's also beaten Drexel in 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings. So if you're into historical trends, it's pretty much been all Cougars. Brzovic averages 18 points a game for Charleston. Tavares, 44% from three-land. Meanwhile, Drexel on the other side dropped 5 out of their last 7. Having troubles getting to the stripe this year. The Dragons are currently in the bottom 5 in free throws made per game. Now, Drexel contests went 60% to the under in their last 10. I like Charleston +1 on the road, under 140. Next game, there it is. VMI taking on Furman, 12 o'clock East. Furman's the 12-point favorite. Total's 145. Now, the Paladins are 20-8 on the year, but they have not been very good against the point spread recently. Furman failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10. Meanwhile, VMI on the other side, one of the better covering schools in the entire country. VMI's covering in 71% of their ball games this year. 7-3 against the spread in their last 10. Covers against the likes of Mercer, Citadel, and Western Carolina. Now, VMI's averaging nearly double-digit points a game on offense. Bradley's averaging over 15.5 points a game for the Keydets. Keodola's 15 points per contest himself. Now, total-wise, Furman games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, plus 12, over 145. Next game, Florida State, Louisville, 12 o'clock East. Louisville's minus 14, totals 151.5. The Cards are 20-6 on the year. Florida State 16-10. The Noles are currently limiting opposing shooters to just 40% on defense, 31%. They're limiting opposing shooters to just 40% from the field, 31% from three-land. And they're facing a Louisville squad on the other side who failed to cover recently against Miami, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. And I tell you, Louisville, they have not been overly crisp shooting from beyond the arc. The Cardinals make just 32% of their three-pointers as a team. Now, Louisville saw unders recently in 4 out of their last 6. Florida State 5-1 to the under in their last 6 themselves. I like Florida State catching the big number here. Give me the Noles plus 14, under 151.5. Next game, another heavy hitter, Oregon, Wisconsin, 12 o'clock East. Wisconsin's minus 8.5 at home, totals 156. Wisconsin's 21-5 on the year, 13-1 in the Kohl Center. And the Badgers are also covering in 69% of their games. Now, Oregon's 19-8 on the year themselves, but they're just 42% against the number. And more recently, the Ducks failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10. Those were failures to cover against the likes of Northwestern, Nebraska, and UCLA. They're facing a Wisconsin team on the other side who covered in 8 out of their last 9 themselves. The Badgers are tough to shoot the basketball against. Wisconsin's limiting their opponents to just 41% from the field. And once again, as I said in the beginning of this breakdown, the Badgers won 13 of 14 in the Kohl Center. Now, 4 out of Wisconsin's last 7 stayed under the total. Give me Wisconsin minus 8.5, under 156. Next game, TCU, Cincinnati, 12 o'clock East. Cincy's minus 7, totals 132.5. The Bearcats are 15-11 overall. They're 10-4 in the Fifth Third Arena. TCU 15-11 themselves, but just 2-6 on the road. The Horned Frogs are also covering in just 36% of their contests this year. They're in the bottom 15 in shooting from the foul line. Now, TCU on the other side, well, they're making their opponents very uncomfortable, holding their competition to just 42% from the field, 30% from beyond the arc. And they're facing a Cincy team who, I'm sorry, man, I'm really messing up here. The Horned Frogs, they're making just 42% of their field goals. They're shooting just 30% from beyond the arc. That's what I meant to say. I guess my handwriting's a little bad. But anyway, they're facing a Cincy team on the other side who rarely gets into foul trouble, and they're limiting opposing teams to just 65 points a game. When it comes to the number, the Bearcats covered in their last 5 straight, covers against the likes of Iowa State, Utah, and BYU. Now, total-wise, TCU went 7-2 to the under in their last 9. I like Cincinnati minus 7, under 132.5. All right, next matchup, another real big game here. Tennessee, Texas A&M, 12 o'clock Eastern tip. Texas A&M's minus 2.5, totals 130 and a hook. Now, the Aggies saw unders in their last 4 straight, 9-1 to the under in their last 10. A&M's allowing only 65 points a game on defense, top 25 in defensive boards. Meanwhile, Tennessee games went 60% to the under in their last 10. The Vols are currently 2nd in the country in defensive field goal percentage. The Vols are limiting opposing teams to just 37% shooting from the field. I like the under 130.5. Next matchup, Mississippi State taking on Oklahoma, 1 o'clock Eastern tip. Mississippi State's minus 4, totals 149.5. Now, the Bulldogs are 19-7 on the year, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. Meanwhile, Oklahoma 16-10 on the year themselves, 10-4 straight up at home. And despite the recent struggles, the Sooners have been tough against the deep ball. Oklahoma's limiting opposing shooters to just 29% from beyond the arc. Now, Mississippi State on the other side, well, they're having troubles covering the number recently. The Bulldogs failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. Failures against Florida, Missouri, and Alabama. And when it comes to defensive play, it's Mississippi State who struggled against the long ball. They're 328th in three-pointers allowed per game. Now, total-wise, Oklahoma games went 5-3 to the under in their last 8. I like the Sooners, +4, under 149.5. All right, next breakdown, Tulsa, Rice, 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Rice is -7.5, totals 141.5. Now, the Owls are 12-15 on the year, losing record at home. Rice is currently on a 4-game losing streak as well, and they also dropped 9 out of their last 10. Now, the Owls are currently 338th in field goals made per game, and they're facing a Tulsa squad who's done a nice job against the point spread recently. The Golden Hurricane covered in 5 out of their last 8, covers against the likes of Temple, Memphis, and Tulane. 4 out of Tulsa's last 7 stayed under the total. Give me Tulsa +7.5, under 141.5. All right, next ball game, ACC, Wake Forest, NC State, 2 o'clock East. Wake Forest is -2.5 away from home, totals 137.5. Now, the Deacs are 19-7 on the year, winning record on the road. NC State just 10-16 overall themselves, 30% against the point spread. And more recently, the Wolfpack dropped 9 out of their last 10 games. They failed to cover in all of those contests except for 2. Now, defensively, the Wolfpack, they really don't rebound well, and their opponents are making over 77% of their free throws against them. They're facing a Wake Forest team who got the W in 7 out of their last 10 themselves, 70% against the number during that span. The Deacs also shoot it well from the foul line themselves. Hildreth is 83% from the stripe, second on the roster in scoring, and Salas is averaging a team best 18.5 points a game. Now, total-wise, NC State saw overs in 3 out of their last 4 contests. I like Wake Forest, -2.5, over 137.5. Next matchup, Penn State, Minnesota, 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Minnesota is -3.5 at home, totals 141. The Gophers have 14 wins on the year, 10-6 straight up at home. Penn State, 14-13 themselves, but just 1-7 on the road. And more recently, the Nittany Lions dropped 8 out of their last 10. Doing a poor job defending the field goal. No way to, sugarcoat it. They're struggling underneath the rack. They're struggling contesting shots. Penn State's 300th in defensive field goal percentage. And they're facing a Minnesota team who covered in 6 out of their last 9 themselves. Covers against UCLA, USC, and this very Penn State team. They actually held the Nittany Lions to just 61 points in that outright victory in Happy Valley. And when it comes to defensive play, the Gophers are allowing only 69 points a game, 26 in the country in blocks. Now, oddly enough, the Gophers did see overs recently versus Illinois, Washington, and Oregon. Give me the Gophers -3.5, over 141. All right, next contest. Iowa State taking on Houston. That's going to be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Houston's -12.5, totals 133. Now, the Cougs saw unders recently against Arizona, West Virginia, and Utah. They're currently allowing an NCAA low 57 points a game on defense. Now, Iowa State, on the other side, their games went 60% to the under in their last 10. And, the Cyclones have been tough defensively themselves. They're 15th in steals, top 30 in defensive boards. I like the under 133. All right, next contest, Georgia Tech taking on Boston College. That'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip. Georgia Tech's -3 away from home, totals 142.5. The Yellow Jackets have a losing record against the point spread, just 1-7 straight up on the road. Meanwhile, BC's got a winning record at home, covered in 5 out of their last 7. Hand shoots nearly 40% from 3 land, 16.5 points a game. And Vennings, 55% from the field, second on the roster in scoring. BC Games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. I like Boston College +3, over 142.5. Next game, Fresno State taking on Air Force, 3 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Air Force is -2.5. And did we pass it here? 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Nope, not on their big screen, but once again, Fresno State, Air Force, 3 o'clock East. Air Force is -2.5 at home. Total's 141 and a hook. And I'll tell you, for a team laying a basket here, the Falcons are just 3-24 overall for this season, 2-11 straight up at home. Meanwhile, Fresno on the other side, they're covering in nearly 60% of their games. They actually had covers recently in 3 out of their last 5. That was against UNLV, Utah State, and San Jose State. And even though there's really not a ton the Bulldogs do well, they are doing a nice job getting to the foul line. Weaver makes 81% of his attempts from the stripe, dozen points a game for him. And Crawford averages double-digit points a game himself, 50% shooting from the field. The Bulldogs did see unders recently versus UNLV, Boise State, and Colorado State. Give me Fresno +2, under 141.5. Next matchup, SEC, Ole Miss, Vandy, 3:30 p.m. East. Vanderbilt's -2 at home, totals 153. The Commodores are 17-9 on the year. Ole Miss is 19-7. The Rebels are averaging 78 points a game, and they saw overs in 6 out of their last 9. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. Overs against Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. The Commodores rarely turn the ball over on offense. And I'll tell you, they're putting up a bunch of points per contest themselves. I think this should be a fun one. Should be a good matchup. Give me the over 153. All right, next game, George Mason taking on Virginia Commonwealth. That'll be a 4 o'clock Eastern tip-off. VCU is -10. Totals 131.5. Now, the VCU Rams are 7th in the country in field goals allowed, 9th in three-pointers given up. VCU saw unders recently versus UMass and Rhode Island. Meanwhile, George Mason saw unders in 5 out of their last 9 themselves. They're in the top 10 in the country in fewest points allowed. This is going to be the opposite of that Ole Miss game. I'm not so sure this is going to be a fun one. Give me the under 131.5. All right, next contest, Clemson, SMU, 4 o'clock Eastern tip. Clemson's -2, totals 145.5. The Tigers saw overs in 5 out of their last 8. They're 13th in the country in shooting the 3 ball. Hunter is shooting 42% from 3 land, 17 points per contest. Meanwhile, Lakins is also drilling 40% of his deep balls. SMU on the other side, they saw overs recently versus Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, and Louisville. SMU's a top 25 point producing team. Miller leads the scoring for the Mustangs. Harris, 43% from downtown. This should be an entertaining one to watch. I like the over 145.5. All right, next game, staying in that 4 o'clock slate. Some Big Ten action. Washington, Iowa, 4 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Iowa's -6, totals 158. The Hawkeyes are 11-5 at home. Washington just 2-6 straight up on the road. The Huskies also dropped 7 out of their last 10 at any location, and they rank 312th, in defending the field goal. And unfortunately for them, the Hawkeyes have had little problems getting to the rack this year. They're 2nd in the country in field goals made per game. Sanford averages 16 points per contest. Dix is 42% from beyond the arc. Now, total-wise, Washington games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the Hawkeyes -6, over 158. Next game, Baylor, Colorado, 4 o'clock East. Baylor's -6, totals 142. Now, the Bears are 16-10 on the year, but they cover in only 36% of their games. They've also taken the loss in 7 out of 9 away from Waco. Meanwhile, the Buffs on the other side, they covered the point spread in their last 4 straight themselves. Colorado's got a .600 win percentage in Boulder. Hammond's making 40% of his long balls, team leader in scoring. And Jakomowski, he's averaging double-digit points a game. That is an unfortunate last name. Now, the Buffs saw overs recently versus Iowa State, Houston, and BYU. I like Colorado +6 over 142. All right, next matchup, moving into that 5 o'clock slate. New Mexico State taking on Kennesaw State, 5 o'clock East. Kennesaw is -5, totals 143. Now, the Owls did take the loss in 4 out of their last 8. New Mexico State, on the other side, has a winning record on the road. And out of the Aggies' last 4 contests, well, they've held their competition to just 57 points a game. They've been an absolute force on the defensive end of the court. Now, New Mexico State's limiting opposing shooters this year to just 39% from the field, 28% from three-land. Aggies games also went 9-1 to the under in their last 10. I like New Mexico State +5, under 143. Next game, Akron, Ohio, 6 o'clock East. Akron's 1.5 away from home, totals 163 and a hook. The Zips are 21-5 on the year, 6-3 in their travels. Akron has not lost a game in over a month, and they are a top 10 point producing team in the country. They've been incredible shooting from long range. Akron averages nearly double-digit 3 balls a game. I believe it's actually more than that. They're 3rd in the country in 3-pointers made per contest. I believe they're averaging close to like a dozen 3 balls a game, but they're 3rd in the nation in 3 balls per game. Tavari Johnson drills nearly 40% of his 3 balls, dozen points per game. And Nate Johnson, he's leading the program in points per contest. They're facing an Ohio team who allows 76 points a game on defense, bottom 5 in guarding the 3 ball. The Bobcats saw overs in 7 out of their last 10. I like Akron -1.5, over 163 and a hook. Next game, Boise State, Nevada, 6 o'clock East. Boise's -1, totals 136. Boise State's 18-8 on the year, but they do have a losing record on the road. Nevada 15-11 themselves, 10-4 straight up in the Lawler Center. And more recently, the Wolfpack got the W in 4 out of their last 5. Just 66 points a game they allowed during that span. But I tell you, the real strength of this Nevada program, it's their ability to get to the basket. The Wolfpack's in the top 35 in offensive field goal percentage. Davidson's averaging 16 points a game, just about 40% from three-land. And Xavier Dussell's knocking down 45% of his attempts from outside the perimeter. They're facing a Boise squad who does not shoot it great from three-land themselves. The Broncos are making just 32% of their attempts from downtown. And total-wise, Nevada games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the Wolfpack +1, over 136. Next matchup, ACC, Virginia Tech, Miami, 6 o'clock East. Miami's -2.5 at home, totals 147. Now, the Canes are just 6-20 on the year, 6-8 straight up at home. And more recently, the Canes dropped 8 out of their last 10. They allowed a ridiculous amount of points during that time frame. No real surprise here, folks. Miami's in the bottom 3 in the nation in guarding the 3 ball, bottom 5 in defensive field goal percentage. And they're facing a Hokie team who got the W in 3 out of their last 6. Victories against the likes of Notre Dame, Virginia, and Florida State. Lawal's draining nearly 40% of his long balls, team leader in scoring. And Poteet's 53% from the field, double-digit points a game. The Hokies saw overs in 3 out of their last 5. I like Virginia Tech +2.5, over 147. Next game, Kentucky, Alabama, 6 o'clock East. Bama's -10, totals 180. Alabama's 21-5 on the year, 10-2 straight up at the Coleman. Meanwhile, Kentucky's 18-8 themselves, but dropped 5 out of their last 7 on the road. And more recently, the Wildcats dropped 5 out of their last 9. They're allowing nearly 76 points a game for the year. And that's certainly bad news for them because Bama's averaging over 90 points a game themselves, leading the country in points per game. Mark Sears averages 18.5 points per contest. Holloway's 42% from three-land. The Tide saw overs in 6 out of their last 9. I like Alabama -10 over 180. Next contest, Santa Clara, Washington State, 6 o'clock East. Santa Clara's -3, totals 157. The Broncos are 4-5 on the road. Wazoo 9-3 straight up at the Beasley. And even though the Cougs have struggled recently, they still do a nice job getting to the basket. They're making nearly 50% of their field goals as a team. That puts them in the top 25 in the nation in that category. Nate Calmise averages 15 points a game. Watts is shooting 43% from long range. Now, Santa Clara on the other side, they took the loss recently against St. Mary's and Oregon State. And once again, the Broncos lost 5 of 9 away from home this year. Santa Clara did see overs recently versus San Diego, Oregon State, and Gonzaga. I like Wazoo +3 over 157. All right, next matchup, Florida, LSU, 6 o'clock East. Florida's -9.5, totals 153. The Gators are 23-3 on the year, 19-7 against the point spread. LSU 14-12 themselves, covering in only 50% of their games. The Tigers also dropped 5 out of their last 6 meetings with the Gators, and they've had their struggles recently as well. LSU dropped 7 out of their last 9, and they struggled on defense for the most part during that stretch. Now, Florida, on the other side, winners of 8 out of their last 9, 7-2 against the point spread during that span. The Gators allow only 66 points per contest, and they're 5th in the country in guarding the deep ball. They're actually limiting their opponents to just 28% shooting from outside the perimeter. Now, Florida saw unders in 6 out of their last 9. I like Florida -9.5, under 153. Next game, St. Mary's, Gonzaga, 8 o'clock East. The Zags are -7, totals 142. Now, the Bulldogs are 21-7 on the year, but they do have a losing record against the point spread. Gonzaga covers in only 39% of their contests this year. Meanwhile, St. Mary's, they're 24-4 themselves, 7-1 straight up on the road. The Gales actually beat Gonzaga in their last 3 head-to-head meetings. As far as this season goes, the Gales got the W in 9 out of their last 10. Marcellonis leads the Gales in scoring. Morisakis averages 13 points a game himself. And when it comes to defensive play, St. Mary's is 4th in the nation in points allowed per contest, 8th in defensive boards. Now, total-wise, Gonzaga did see overs in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Washington State contest. I like St. Mary's +7, keeping that one close, over 142. Next game, San Diego State taking on Utah State, 8 o'clock East. Utah State's -6 at home, totals 143. The Aggies are 23-4 on the year, but just 50% against the point spread. San Diego State, they're 18-6 overall themselves, 5-2 straight up in their travels. And more recently, the Aztecs got the W in 8 out of their last 10. They're 4th in the nation in field goals allowed on D. The Aztecs are limiting their competition to just 37% shooting from the field. Meanwhile, Utah State on the other side, they failed to cover in 4 out of their last 7. Failures to cover against the likes of Fresno, Wyoming, and New Mexico. In total-wise, San Diego State saw unders in 4 out of their last 7, throwing out that Fresno State game. I like San Diego State +6, under 143. Next game, Butler, DePaul, 8 o'clock East. Butler's -4, totals 147.5. The Bulldogs are 12-14 on the year, 1-7 straight up on the road. Meanwhile, DePaul is 10-7 at home this year, covered recently against Marquette, Seton Hall, and UConn. And even though the Blue Demons definitely had their problems, not going to ignore that. You know, DePaul's not playing great basketball, but they do like shooting the long ball. That's one thing that they continue to do. They're averaging nearly double-digit three-pointers a game. Rivera shoots 41% from three-land. Gunn is the team leader in points. And they're facing a Butler squad on the other side who ranks 311th in field goals allowed per game. And even though they really don't foul a whole lot on defense, Bulldog opponents, for some reason, are shooting 76% from the foul line against them. Now, total-wise, DePaul games went 6-2 to the under in their last 8. I like the Blue Demons. Give me DePaul, +4, under 147.5. Next game, Illinois Duke, 8 o'clock East. Now, a lot of handicappers out there, they just look at the slate and they do, oh, Duke's at home. Actually, this is a neutral site game. This is an 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off at Madison Square Garden in Manhattan. Duke's -9.5 at the neutral site. Totals 155 and a hook. The Blue Devils are 23-3 on the year, 63% against the point spread. Now, they've also gotten the W in 8 out of their last 9 contests away from Cameron Indoor. Meanwhile, the Illini on the other side, they have a losing record away from Champaign, losing record this year against the point spread. And more recently, the Illini failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10, having trouble shooting that deep ball. Illinois makes only 31% of their attempts from beyond the arc. They're facing a Duke squad who's allowing only 60 points a game this year, 7th in defensive field goal percentage. The Blue Devils are holding their opponents to just 38% from the field. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, Duke rarely turns it over, and they're averaging double-digit 3 balls a game. They're actually in the top 25 in shooting from the field. Cooper Flagg averages over 19.5 points per contest, 7.7 rebounds. Meanwhile, Proctor and James are drilling 41% of their 3 balls combined. Duke saw overs in 6 out of their last 9. I like Duke -9.5, over 155 and a hook. Next game, Missouri, Arkansas, 8 o'clock East. Mizzou's -2, totals 150. The Tigers saw overs in 5 out of their last 7. They're first in the country in free throws made per game. They're doing a great job getting to the stripe, and when they get to the line, they're going to make you pay. Bates is making 93% of his attempts from the stripe, 13 points a night. And Mitchell's leading the Tigers in points per game. Now, they're facing an Arkansas team on the other side who averages 76 points a game themselves. The Razorbacks saw overs recently versus Texas and Kentucky. Tiero averages over 15.5 points a game. Ivasic is 41% from beyond the arc. I like the over 150. Next matchup, Texas, South Carolina, 8:30 p.m. East. The Longhorns are -2.5 away from home. Totals 139 and a hook. The Longhorns are 16-10 on the year. South Carolina just 10-16. And yep, you guessed it. The Gamecocks are still winless in conference play. South Carolina is an absurd 0-13 against the SEC. And no real surprise here. Just by default, South Carolina has not won a ball game in well over a month. They're taking on a Longhorn team who averages nearly 80 points a game on offense, rarely turns the ball over. Texas is currently in the top 20 in the country in fewest turnovers on offense. Johnson is averaging just about 20 points a game. Kaluma shoots 40% from downtown. Now, the Longhorns saw overs in their last 5 straight. I like Texas -2.5, over 139 and a hook. Next game, Pepperdine, Loyola Marymount, 9 o'clock East. Loyola's -6.5, totals 147 and a hook. The Lions are 10-5 straight up at home. Pepperdine just 2-9 on the road. The Waves also lost 5 out of their last 6. They're having all kinds of problems on defense. Pepperdine ranks 344th in field goals allowed per game. They're taking on a Loyola squad who plays well at home. And they actually covered recently versus Gonzaga, Portland, and this very Pepperdine team. They actually held the Waves to just 60 points in that outright win. And when it comes to defensive play, the Lions have definitely been tough against the long ball. Loyola's allowing only 6 3 balls a game, 31% from beyond the arc. Loyola saw unders in 5 out of their last 9. I like Loyola Marymount minus 6.5, under 147 and a hook. All right, next game should be a good one. BYU, Arizona, 10 o'clock East. The Wildcats are minus 7, totals 154. Arizona's 18-8 on the year, 11-2 at home. BYU 18-8 themselves, but they did drop 5 of 8 in their travels this year. And as good as the Cougs have been on defense, they have been a bit susceptible to the long ball. They're 323rd in three-pointers allowed per game. They also failed to cover more recently against Cincinnati, Baylor, and this very Arizona team. They actually allowed 85 points to the Wildcats in that double-digit loss. And as far as Arizona is concerned, they covered in 7 out of their last 9 themselves. 81 points a game they're averaging this year, 12th in offensive rebounds. Awaka averages over 7.5 boards a game. Caleb Love leads the program in scoring. 5 out of Arizona's last 9 did get over the total. I like Arizona minus 7 over 154. Next game, Cal, Stanford, 10 o'clock East. Stanford's minus 5.5, totals 148. The Cardinal of Stanford, they're 16-10 on the year, 13-2 in Maples Pavilion. Cal, 12-14 overall, 2-8 straight up on the road. And more recently, the Golden Bears dropped 5 out of their last 6. And they've been lackluster shooting it from the field. Cal ranks 314th in offensive field goal percentage. Now, Stanford got the W in 5 out of their last 9. Once again, 13-2 straight up in their own building. Reynaud leads the program in scoring, just about 20 points a game for him. Meanwhile, Sellers is shooting 87% from the stripe, 13 points a game. Now, oddly enough, Stanford did see unders in 5 out of their last 9. I like Stanford minus 5.5, under 148. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final college basketball breakdown, but don't change that channel because we have NBA coming up in just a moment. Our last game here is Colorado State, UNLV, 10 o'clock East. Colorado State's minus 3, totals 137.5. Now, the Rams are playing just .500 basketball on the road this year, 50% against the point spread for the entire season. UNLV on the other side, 14-12 overall, 10-4 in the Thomas & Mack Center. The Rebels are currently on a 3-game winning streak. And they allowed only 53 points a game during that span. And as much as Colorado State does right, they have struggled a bit against the 3-ball. They rank 309th in defensive 3-point percentage. Now, total-wise, UNLV games went 7-3 to the under in their last 10. I like UNLV plus 3, under 137.5. And with that, we're going to jump into some NBA action. Suns, Bulls, 5 o'clock East. Phoenix is minus 4 away from home. Totals 239. Now, the Suns are just 26-29 on the year, but, Chicago on the other side, they're even worse at 22-34. Now, the Bulls have also got themselves a losing record against the point spread, and they're just 10-19 in the United Center. Now, more recently, Chicago's on a 5-game skid, and they gave up a ton of points during that time frame. The Bulls allowed over 126 points per contest during that span. They're also allowing more field goals a game than any other team. They're facing a Phoenix squad who's 7th in shooting the long ball, 3rd in shooting from the stripe. Kevin Durant averages 27 points per contest, 40% from three-land. And Devin Booker is averaging 26 points per contest himself. 4 boards, 6.7 assists for Booker. Phoenix saw overs in 7 out of their last 10. I like the Suns -4 over 239. Next contest, Nets, Sixers, 7:30 Eastern tip. Philadelphia's -11, totals 213. Now the Sixers are 15 games below 500, 36% against the point spread. And out of 28 contests in the Wells Fargo Center, the Sixers have posted a record of just 10-18. Now the Nets on the other side, they're just 20-35 themselves, but they do have a winning record against the number. And actually, more recently, the Nets covered in 6 out of their last 8. They actually got the outright W in all of those games besides 2. This is a team who's playing some pretty good basketball over the past couple of weeks. And listen, I get it. There's really not a ton that the Nets do well on offense, but they do shoot it well from the foul line. They're 7th in offensive free throw percentage. Now, they're taking on a Philly squad who's horrible. They're laying double digits in this spot, and they failed to cover in their last 7 straight. They ranked dead last in defensive field goal percentage. The Sixers are allowing their opponents to make nearly 50% of their attempts from the field against them. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, the Sixers are a bottom 5 point producing team, dead last in offensive rebounds. Philly saw overs in 6 out of their last 9. I like Brooklyn +11 over 213. Next game, Lakers Nuggets, 8:30 p.m. East. Denver's -6.5, totals 240 and a hook. Now the Nuggets are 37-19 on the year, 20-8 at home. Meanwhile, the Lakers are playing just 500 basketball in their travels. And when it comes to defensive play, LA's in the bottom 10 in steals, 23rd in field goals allowed. And that's certainly bad news for them because Denver makes more field goals a game than any other team. Nikola Jokic averages over 29.5 points per contest, dozen boards, 10 assists for the Joker. Jokic is also drilling 44% of his 3 balls. Not much this guy can't do. This is the clear-cut best player in basketball. Now, listen, Jamal Murray, he's shooting nearly 40% from beyond the arc himself, 21 points a game for him. And as a team, the Red Hot Nuggets are in the middle of a 9-game winning streak. Now, Denver's last 3 straight got over the total. Laker games went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. I like the Nuggets -6.5 over 240 and a hook. Next matchup, Rockets Jazz, 9:30 Eastern tip-off. Houston's -8.5, totals 229. The Rockets are 33-20 on the year, winning record against the point spread. The Rockets are also 17-11 in their road trips. Meanwhile, Utah is just 12-39 overall, 5-18 on the road. And more recently, the Jazz lost 8 out of their last 10. They're turning it over more times a game than any other team in the NBA. And they're taking on a tough defensive team in Houston. The Rockets allowed just 108 points per contest, 4th in field goals allowed. The Rockets are currently holding their opponents to just a dozen made 3-pointers a game. Now, Houston saw unders in 3 out of their last 4, 60% to the under in their last 10. Give me Houston -8.5. Under 229. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. It's going to be in that Hornets-Blazers game, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Portland's -4.5, totals 221 and a hook. The Blazers are 32-24 against the point spread this year, winning record in the Moda Center. Charlotte on the other side, just 14-40 overall, 5-20 away from home. And more recently, the Hornets lost 8 out of their last 10 games. And they have all kinds of problems getting to the cup. Charlotte's currently the worst field goal shooting team in the game. And they're facing a Portland squad who covered in 6 out of their last 7 home games. They're currently 6th in the league in 3 balls allowed. They're limiting opposing shooters to under 13 3 balls a game. Now, the Blazers saw 4 out of their last 6 stay under the posted total. I like Portland -4.5, under 221 and a hook. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, starting in college basketball. I like Charleston +1, under 140, UMBC -9, over 149. I'm 6-0 my last 6 Gold Club plays on my premium page. 13-1 of my last 14 in that same package. VMI +12, over 145. Florida State +14, under 151.5. Wisconsin -8.5, under 156. Cincinnati -7, under 132.5. I like the under 130.5 in that Tennessee Texas A&M matchup. St. Joe's -13.5, under 135. Central Michigan -2, over 149.5. Texas Tech -11.5, under 136. Appalachian State -4, over 138. Oklahoma +4, under 149.5. Tennessee State +1.5, under 152. Tulsa +7.5, under 141.5. Charleston Southern -7, over 156. High Point -7, over 157.5. UNC Greensboro -2.5, under 145. Binghamton +4, over 133. Davidson -1.5, over 149. St. Francis, PA -1, over 144.5. Liberty -14.5, over 138. Wake Forest -2.5, over 137.5. Minnesota -3.5, over 141. Wagner +1, under 126. UNC Wilmington -5.5, over 140. North Dakota State -3, over 159.5. I like the under 133 in that Iowa State-Houston matchup. Towson +1, over 131.5. NCAA -2.5, under 138. Chattanooga -19.5, under 145. Boston College +3, over 142.5. Wofford -2, under 136. Pitt Panthers -2.5, over 142. Ball State -9, over 151.5. St. Louis -5.5, under 153. Fresno State +2.5, under 141.5. Arkansas State -20, under 149. Middle Tennessee -3.5, under 148. Evansville +8.5, over 143.5. Samford -16, under 157. I like the over 153 in that Ole Miss Vanderbilt matchup. Moorhead -5, under 128. Jackson State -6.5, under 141. Give me the under 131.5 in that George Mason Virginia Commonwealth matchup. Northern Arizona -3, over 145. Nicholls State -3, under 151. Lemoyne College +1.5, under 138. Hofstra +2.5, over 143.5. I like the over 145.5 in that Clemson SMU matchup. Auburn -17, under 147.5. Little Rock -10.5, under 134. Central Connecticut State -9.5, under 136. St. Bonaventure -6, under 129. North Carolina -10, over 143.5. Wyoming -3.5, over 133.5. Delaware State +3, under 151. Portland State -2.5, over 141. Kansas -15, over 150. Iowa -6, over 158. Colorado +6, over 142. Utah Valley -5.5, over 139. Morgan State +1.5, over 165. American -3, over 127. James Madison -8, under 146. Alabama State -4, under 146. Eastern Michigan -3, over 145. UMass Lowell +5, over 139. Lamar -1, under 136. Radford -6.5, over 134. Norfolk State -13, over 139. Troy -15.5, under 134.5. Southeast Missouri State -9.5, over 143. Cal State Northridge -3, under 145.5. Oregon State -12, over 148. McNeese -10.5, over 143. Lafayette -1, under 133. Cal Poly +2, over 161. Jacksonville State -4, under 139.5. New Mexico State +5 under 143. Bethune-Cookman -2 under 151. Southern -2 under 130. Arkansas Pine Bluff +6 over 161. South Alabama +1.5 over 134. Bradley -6.5 over 137 and a hook. Akron -1.5 over 163 and a hook. Belmont -6 over 171. Texas Southern -23 under 135. Nevada +1 over 136. Virginia Tech +2.5 over 147. Alabama -10 over 180. Washington State +3 over 157. Florida Gators -9.5 under 153. Stephen F. Austin +2 over 136. George Washington -6.5 under 145. Northwestern State -6 under 141. Valparaiso +7 over 146.5. Portland +3.5 under 147. Elon -3.5 under 152. Albany -12 over 144. Georgia State +2 over 153. UC Santa Barbara -7 over 137.5. Missouri State +2.5 over 136. St. Mary's +7 over 142. Texas Arlington -7.5 over 138 and a hook. San Diego State +6 under 143. DePaul +4 under 147.5. St. Thomas -8 over 157. Grand Canyon -10 over 150. Duke -9.5 over 155 and a hook. I like the over 150 in that Missouri-Arkansas matchup. Northern Colorado -9.5 over 157. Louisiana Tech +3 under 146. Southern Miss -4 under 149. Sacramento State +11.5 under 139 and a hook. Nebraska Omaha -5 over 171. Texas Longhorns -2.5 over 139 and a hook. SIU Edwardsville -5 under 140. Montana +2.5 over 145 and a hook. Loyola Marymount -6.5 under 147.5. UC Irvine -7.5 under 140. Arizona -7 over 154. Stanford -5.5 under 148. UC San Diego -16 over 138. And give me UNLV +3 under 137.5. NBA Suns -4 over 239. Nets +11 over 213. Nuggets -6.5 over 240 and a hook. Rockets -8.5 under 229. Give me Portland -4.5 under 221 and a hook. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. It's going to be included with your membership. That's why we tell folks, that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. It drives a ton of traffic to my premium page. There is nothing more important than the free content. It is the lifeblood of what I do. So I got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, folks, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.